Hello students, today in this chapter we are going to discuss on the effects of pollutions. As we know that we have already covered the two chapters, that is about first chapter was about the pollution and the second chapter about the sources of pollutions. And in this chapter we are actually focusing on the effect of pollutions. Okay. Now all the types of pollutions, the first in the first paragraph it is saying that all the types of pollutions such as noise, air, water, soil and the radioactive have an impact on all the living organism and their environment. Yeah, it is very true that all the types of pollutions have an impact on living organism as well as to the environment. Okay, it's very important. And the pollutants in the environment are responsible for the environmental degradation. As we know that these pollutants are that are present in the environment are responsible for the environmental degradation or environmental pollutions. Okay, the effect of the pollutions that is ranges from the mild discomfort to a long-term effects such as cancer and the physical deformities. Means what are the effects? Means what we are talking about the effects. So it can be mild as well as it can be a long-term. Okay. So first example is about the cancer and the second one is that about the physical deformities. Now, increased pollutions in the environment also cause a physiological and the behavioral disorders in the human beings. Means if we are increasing the pollutions, then what is going to happen? It causes physiological as well as the behavior disorders in the human beings. So first in the first paragraph actually in any type of the pollution that is present in the environment is going to affect the living organism and as well as their environment also. And it is not the main, there are many pollutants that are responsible for the environmental degradation. And the pollutants means the effect of these pollutants on that are present in the environment have a mild discomfort as well as a long term effect. And also it is talking about the increased pollutions in the environment also cause physiological as well as the behavioral disorder in the human beings. The effect of the effect of each type of pollutions on the environment and on the human beings, as we are going to discuss here, means what are the effects, and we have to discuss one by one of each type of the pollution that are going to affect the environment as well as on the human beings. First, in the first, we are going to focus on the noise pollutions. The effects of the noise pollutions are multifaceted. Means multifaceted, it has many sides. It has many sides and interrelated. Means the effect of noise pollutions are multifaceted and interrelated. Multifaceted and interrelated. The noise pollution has ill effects not only on human beings but also in the environment. So now it is clear that the noise pollution that is present in the environment has an ill effect not only on the human beings but also on the environment also. Now, effects on the environment. The noise that is booms cause cracks in the national and the archaeological monuments. Very high levels of the noise are the cause of cracks in the hills, and high intensity explosion can break glass pans and cause vibrations in the building. Yeah, it is very true that the very high that is level of noise that can cause the cracks in the hills. Okay, and high intensity of explosions can break the glass panes and cause vibrations in the building also. Okay, I think in the last news, I think 2 or 3 months ago, twin tower. I think you have heard about the twin tower. Okay, I think it is in the Ghaziabad, and you can see that in the building was basically demolished. Okay, and in this case you can see that high intensity explosion was done. Now, what are the effects on the human health? Effects on hearing and deafness. Effects on hearing and the deafness. Continuous exposure to noise level. Continuous exposure to the noise level above 100 dB. 100 dB means 100 decibels. Means if there is a continuous exposure of the noise that is more than 100 dB or 100 decibel has an adverse effect on hearing. Has an adverse effect. Means it is going to affect your hearing ability within a fairly short time. Means you will become deaf. Many workers who are exposed to the noise of jet aircraft or very noisy workshop for even modern period soon develop detectable hearing defect. Okay, means the people who are actually exposed continuously for more than 100 decibel sound, they are going to lose their hearing ability. Okay, Second point, effects on the communication. External sounds can interfere with conversation and the use of telephones, as well as the enjoyment of the radio and the television programs. Means there means effects on communication means what? Means if you are talking to somebody and in between that somebody is playing playing radios and the television with a high volume, so it is going to basically interfere with your conversation, and it can thus affect the efficiency of office. Means now, so it is going to affect your efficiency also, as schools and other places where communication is a virtual important. And if you're talking about the schools, means in the schools, if the boys or if the students is making noise, then how the teacher will teach? Means then the teacher's efficiency is going to reduce. So and now the third point is that interference with the sleep. Means interference with sleep means what? Different people have different depth of sleep. We know that every people have different depth of sleep. Some people sleeps very lightly, and some people sleep very depth. They can adjust to natural sounds. However, noisy conditions near residential areas at night cause difficulties in sleeping. Means some of the people get affected due to noise pollution in their sleeping. Now about the mental or the physical effects. Many people complain that noise makes them mental ill. I mean, most of the people complaining that the noise makes them mental ill, and experiments have been performed to confirm or disprove these claims. So most of the people say that noise makes them mental ill, and it was performed. The experiment was done to perform that it is true or false. The scientists now medically confirm that the noise disturb the biological organism. While the noise is going to disturb the biological organism as well as their respective functions. Firecrackers and excessive continuous explosions become physically painful, giving rise to neurosis, mental illness, cardiovascular disease, a stomach ulcer, and respiratory disorder, and thereby reducing the human life. Means from here we can conclude that that is a mental disorder is going to happen, and there is also noise pollution is going to play an important role on the physiological system also. So if it is a continuous exposure, if there is a continuous exposure to noise, then it is going to become a physically painful pain that is giving rise to neurosis, mental illness, cardiovascular disease, a stomach ulcer, and the respiratory disorder, thereby reducing the human life. Recent researchers have concluded that short exposure to the noise in the excess of more than 100 decibel can lead to adverse effect on the fetus. Means yeah, it is very important. Means if you are exposed more than 100 decibel, it is going to affect your fetus and cause headache and dizziness and the stomach problem. So please don't make noise in the class. Now second, effect on the physical health and the physiological problem. What are the effects on the physical health and the physiological problem? Noise has little physical effect on the biological performance, provided that the noise level is below 90 decibel. Means it is talking about that noise that has a little physical effect on the biological performance if the noise is less than, or if the noise is below 90 decibel. Damage to the ear may result if continuous noise level exceeds above 100 decibel and can lead to physical illness. Now, it is very important that if you are exposed to a noise and the noise level is more than 100 decibel, then it is going to affect your inner ear and lead to physical illness. Psychiatrists and the physiological have to recently research made observation that noise has certain relationship with the physical health, causing tension, resulting in problems such as speech interference, annoyance, fatigue, sleep interference, emotional disorder. Means yeah, scientists has observed that there is a certain relationship with the physical health and the noise, and if causing tensions, resulting in the problems such as speech interference, annoyance, fatigue, sleep interference, and the emotional distress. Noise level in industries causes interference in efficiency and communication and raise possibilities of the accident. Now, here it is a graph given that if the noise level is below 90 decibel, and it is good. You can say that it is the threshold of audibility. Now, if it is more than 130 to 135, you are going to vomit, nausea, you will get dizziness. and if it is more than 140 or it is equal to 140 decibel, then it is going to affect your ear. And if it is 150, that is significantly change in the pulse rate, means your pulse rate or your heartbeat is going to increase. And if your, that is, if the noise is equal to 90, then there is a permanent damage to the hearing. So this chart is very important, and you can say that the effect of noise intensity on the human beings. Now, what is the effects on the animal? Noise that is from the industries, railways, crackers, explosions, and the commotion in the cities and the aircraft affects animals, birds, mice, fishes, and the domestic animals. Means the noise is not going to only affect the animal, but only not going to affect the human beings, but also it is going to affect the animal. The birds avoid migrating to place where the noise level is above 100 decibels. Yeah, it is very important that the birds will not migrate where the noise level is more than 100 decibel. The noise emission that is caused by the supersonic aircraft and railways may cause miscarriage in the maple and the fishes as well. Yeah, it is very important that the noise that is emitted by the supersonic aircraft and the railways cause miscarriage in the mammals and the fishes as well. And some of the birds have found to have stopped laying eggs due to noise pollution. Yeah, it is very important, means it is going to affect their reproductive system also, or because some of the birds basically they have found that they have stopped laying eggs due to noise pollutions. Now, again, our next topic is about the effect of air pollution. Our next topic is about the effect of air pollution. Air pollution is the presence in the air of one or more noxious gases. One or more noxious means means harmful. It is harmful or the poisonous or very unpleasant. Noxious means what? Harmful, poisonous, or very unpleasant. So it is talking that air pollution is the presence in the air of one or more harmful gases and the minute particles of the soil and the liquid metals, that is particulates, in the harmful concentration of such duration and the characteristic that is injurious to the plants, animals, human beings, and other materials. Means it is talking about the air pollution, that if there is a presence of harmful gases into the environment with heavy concentration, it is going to injure the plant, animal, human beings, and the other materials. Means what are the effects on the environment? What are the effects we are talking now? Our next topic is effects on environment. If there is increase in the concentration of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases like methane, nitrogen oxide, chlorofluorocarbon, and water vapors are responsible for increasing the temperature on the earth. Yeah, we are talking about the air pollution. So if there is increase in the concentration of what? Carbon dioxide and like greenhouse gases, methane, nitrogen oxides, chlorofluorocarbons, and water vapor, and if these air gases is going to increase, then this is responsible for increasing the temperature on the earth, and these gases basically trap the earth heat and causes global heating or global warming. Yeah, means if these gases is going to present more in the atmosphere, if these gases is going to trap the earth's heat and cause global warming, which has the following effects on the environment, has a following effect on the environment. First one is that due to global warming, the regions of the north hemisphere will heat up more than the areas of the planets. Means yeah, it is very important that we are talking about the regions in the northern hemisphere. Why? Because in the northern hemisphere we see that most area of the land is in the northern hemisphere, and the remaining, that is in the south, we have more water as compared to land. So due to global warming, what is going to happen? The regions of the northern hemisphere will heat up and more than the other areas of the planet, and in the temperature, the temperate mountains and the slow lines melt earlier. So what is going to happen? The glaciers is going to melt. Second one is that winter and the night times temperature will tend to rise more than those of summer and the day. Means what is going to happen here? Due to trapped of heat in the air, the winter and the night time temperature will rise more than that of the summer time. Rising warmth will lead to an increase in the level of evaporation of the surface water, and the air will also expand, and this will increase the capacity holding to the moisture. Yeah, means here the humidity is going to increase. Humidity is going to increase. Why? Because because the air is going to expand, and this increases its capacity to hold the moisture, and in turn will affect the water resources and the forest and other natural ecological systems, agriculture, power generations, infrastructure, tourism, and health system also. Now our next point is that due to Due to the rise, due to excessive heat in the water, that is due to excessive heat, water will evaporate quickly, and the soil affected with the erosion, and the soil affected with erosion and devoid of vegetation cover will not retain moisture for long, and hence there is going to adopt. Means if there is more heat, then water is going to evaporate easily, and it is going to affect the soil. Okay, and if there is no vegetation there, and there will no moisture retention capacity for long, and this is going to be a drought condition. Now our next point is that rise in the temperature would lead to melting of glaciers. Yeah, if there is an increase in temperature, the melting of glacier is going to happen, and which will form the natural lakes between the molds of debris and the rocks, and that are left behind by the sliding glaciers. So, and there is a chances for the formation of lakes. That is a you can say that the debris, amounts of debris, rocks that are left behind by the sliding glaciers, there will be result in an imbalance between the overflow water. Means, yeah, if there is a rise in increase in temperature, the glaciers is going to melt, so there is will be a result in the imbalance of overflow water, and this means that the glacial lake will be fed with water from the melting ice faster than the rate at which they can be drained, thus making glacial lake flood more frequently. So means here it is talking about that if the water is going to rise, if there is increase in the imbalance of water, if you consider if there is increase in abundance of water, overflow water, it is going to make the glaciers flood. Now our next topic is about which point, that is deltas. About the deltas will be threatened by flooding. Deltas will be threatened by flooding and erosions and salt intrusions. Loss of coastal mangroves will have an impact on the fisheries. Yeah, if there is increase in water, the deltas will be threatened by flooding and the erosions and the salt intrusions. Means that there is a infusion of salt. Loss of coastal mangroves will have an impact on the fisheries. Coastal mangroves, if the coastal mangroves is going to lose, then it is has a great impact on the fisheries. For example, the major delta of Ganga, Brahmaputra and the Indus River, which have large population, will be affected by the floods and salt water intrusions and the land loss. Our next point is the effects on the human health. The extent to which human beings are affected by the air pollution depends on the duration of the exposure and the concentration of pollutants. Ozone damages the leaf ozone. Our next point is what? This one. There is a common air pollutants and their effects on the human. First one is common air pollutant about the carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is going to damage your lungs, weaken bones, reduce the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood and damage heart. Second one is that about the sulfur dioxide, that is it is going to obstruct your breathing, cause irritation of the eyes and the throat. Second one is that suspended particulate matter cause asthma, irritation of the eyes and the cancer. Our second point is that oxides of nitrogen, that is nitric acid, nitrogen dioxide and nitroxide, that is cause acute respiratory infection, bronchitis, lower resistance to influenza. Our next point is a hydrocarbon. Hydrocarbon is going to affect the respiratory system and ozone. Ozone cause irritation to eyes and aggravates the asthma, and that is increase the symptoms of asthma. Lead, that is lead cause brain damage, affect growth and lead to high blood pressure. Arsenic, that is damage kidney, cause jaundice, lungs and the skin cancer. Based on the criteria, air pollution has both short term and the long term effect. Based on the criteria, that is air pollution has both short term and the long term effects on the human beings. If you are talking about the short term, that is irritation to the eyes, nose and the throat, respiratory infections such as bronchitis and the pneumonia, headache, nausea, vomiting, dizziness and convulsion means what? Muscular contractions and the allergic reactions. And the last one is that slurring of speech, means slurring means what? Slurring of speech means we are not able to speak, means the speak is the speech is unclear. And the long term effects, that is the long term effects of the air pollution. First one is a chronic respiratory disease, lungs cancer, cardiovascular disease, coma and the damage to the nerves, brain, liver and the kidney. These are the long term effects of the air pollution. Now a best example, we are talking about the best example about the Bhopal gas tragedy. Bhopal gas tragedy was the worst industrial accident that happened on 3rd December 1984, and about 40 tons of the toxic methyl isocyanate (MIC) gas leaked into the atmosphere from the Union Carbide's pesticides factory in Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh. As a result of the accident, that is 3,500 people were killed and about 40,000 people were affected in area of about 100 square kilometer. The gas that is engulfed the city, blinding the people, choking their breathing and suffocating them. The gas that is affected the tissues of their eyes and lungs and attacked their nervous system. The people lost control of their bodies and urine and the feces ran out their legs. And people lost their unborn child also. Means what are the effects of the Bhopal gas tragedy? That it is happened on 3rd December 1945, and in this gas it is a very important gas, that is you can say that is about 40 ton of the methyl isocyanate gas was released in the gas leaked into the atmosphere, and due to this about 3,500 people were killed and about 40,000 people were affected due to this. And what is going to happen means that is the gas basically choked their breathing and suffocating them, and this way they lose their control, and women and the children lost unborn child also. Second one is that effect of the pollutions on the plant. Air pollutants affects the growth of the plant. Air pollutants affects the growth of the plant and the metabolism by destroying the chlorophyll and disrupting the photosynthesis. Means how it is going to affect? First one is it is going to affect the growth of the plant and the metabolism by destroying the chlorophyll and disrupting the photosynthesis. The effect of the air pollutions on the plant are: first one is the sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is going to bleach the surface of the leaves, cause the loss of chlorophyll and result in yellowing of the leaves, especially in the green leafy vegetable. And second one is that nitrogen dioxide. Nitrogen dioxide that is results in the premature falling of the leaves and suppressed growth of the plant, and this lead to reduces the yield of the crop. So first one is that about the sulfur dioxide, it is going to lose the chlorophyll and thus resulting in the yellowing of the leaves. And the second one is about the nitrogen dioxide results in the premature falling of the leaves. Third one is about the ozone that is damages the leaves of the plant, and the fourth one is that peroxyacetyl nitrate that is damage the leaves, vegetables and cause a premature fall, discoloration and curling of the sepals. Now what are the effects of the effects of the air pollution that is on animals that feed on grass and the plant that is are affected with arsenic poisoning and lead poisoning that is resulted with bronchitis and lack of appetite in the pet animals. Next one is effect on the materials. The effects of the air pollutions on the materials are as follows. First one is that soot, dust and the fumes from the air pollutants cause damage to the painted surface, fabrics and the buildings. Second one is that sulfuric acid that is mist and the acid rains damage marbles and the limestones. Means how it is going to affect buildings? It is going to affect the damage the painted surface, fabrics and the building, and second one it is going to damage the marbles and the limestone. The Taj Mahal is the best example for this. Suffered damage caused by the sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere, and its marble structure is getting discolored and corroded. Sulfur dioxide that is together with the moisture that is from sulfuric acid, and it causes corrosion of the metals like steel, copper and the zinc. That is paper becomes brittle and leather undergoes disintegration. Leather undergoes disintegration by sulfur dioxide and acid gas. And ozone that is SO2, NO2 etc. discolored deteriorates and reduces the strength of textile. You can say that this is the paper become brittle and the leather undergo disintegration by sulfur dioxide and the acid rain. Now we are going to study about the effects of water pollution. What are the effects of water pollution? Water pollution affects man, aquatic animal as well as the environment. Effects on the environment, that is first one is animal, marine life and the vegetables. Due to the water pollution, the process of photosynthesis is observed. You know that due to water pollution, the process of photosynthesis is obstructed, means there is some disturbance in the photosynthesis, and this affects the growth of aquatic vegetation, and all the chemicals that are drained into the water have harmful effect on every organism that lives there. Yeah, it is very important that all the chemicals that are drained into the water has an harmful effect on every organism that live there. The effect of water pollution on the marine animals and the plant is visible in two phenomena. These two phenomena is very important. First one is eutrophication and the second one is biomagnification. Yeah, one by one we are going to deal with the eutrophication. Eutrophication is a process by depletion of oxygen from the water bodies occurring either by naturally or due to human activities. Yeah, what is eutrophication? There is a depletion in the oxygen, depletion in the oxygen depletion of the oxygen in the water bodies, that is known as biological oxygen demand. Okay, it is known as what? Biological oxygen, BOD. Okay, so if there is a depletion, if there is decrease in the oxygen in the water bodies, that is can be caused by nature as well as due to human activities. The process of eutrophication takes place due to the introduction of the nutrients and the chemicals through the discharge of domestic sewage, industrial effluents, and the fertilizer from the agriculture fields. Means what are the sources, and that is going to form, or that is the process behind the eutrophication. That is, first one is the introduction of the nutrients and the chemicals through the discharge of the domestic and the sewage, industrial effluents, and the fertilizers from the agriculture field. The consequent nutrient accumulates results in phenomenal growth of phytoplankton and the algae, and thereby reducing the penetrations of the oxygen, light, and heat into the water bodies. And as a result, most of the organisms die and draining water of all its oxygen. Now, second point is about the biomagnification. The term biomagnification means increasing the concentration of various toxic substances along the food. So first one, biomagnification. The term biomagnification means increasing the concentration of various toxic substances along the food chain, and toxic substance at the level of primary producers get concentrated into the trophic level. Means we have already talked about the eutrophication. Now we are talking about the biomagnification. In this, what is going to happen? Increase in the concentration of various toxic substance along the food chain. Means in this we are focusing on the food chain. So there is an increase in the concentration of toxic substance along the food chain. Means in this talking about that the toxic substance that at the primary level produces concentration at each trophic level, they move up for the food chain. Means there is increase in the toxic substance from the primary to the trophic level. The phenomena of the concentration, that is the phenomena of concentrated toxic deposition and at higher trophic level, is known as a bioaccumulation. For example, if there are traces of toxic chemical in water, their concentration in the algae will be much higher. And when the fish eats the algae, the concentration of the toxin will increase further, and thereby accumulation of the small amount of toxic chemical in the water have a serious impact on the fish also. And one more example is that an example of the phenomena of biomagnification was first noticed in, that is where, that Illinois, that is in USA, where elm tree, that is this tree, where sprayed with DDT, and a large number of birds, that is robin, died near this tree. It was later discovered that these birds, that is perished due to DDT poisoning, and the lethal dose, that is came from the earthworm which they consumed, and the earthworm had concentrated DDT reduced by feeding the fallen elm leaves. Now, first, what is going to happen here? Actually, there was a tree. So in this tree, the tree name is elm tree. This is a ELM tree. Okay, and actually in this the DDT was spread. Now due to this, that is the leaves fall, and it was basically consumed by the earthworm. Now you know that DDT was spread on this, so there is a concentration of some chemicals, so it is going to be absorbed by the leaves, and the leaves is further consumed by the earthworm, and this earthworm form is basically this earthworm is going to feed by this robin. And you see that a large number of this bird, that is robins, died near this tree. Why? Because the concentration of this DDT has increased from the leaf to earthworms. Okay, very best example this one. Now, the other effects of the water pollutions are the phosphorus and the nitrate. This one is a phosphorus and the nitrate from the fertilizer and the detergent containing surface water, and where they act as a nutrients and promotes the growth of oxygen consuming algae. Means it is talking about that the phosphorus and the nitrate, that is from the fertilizer and the detergents containing surface water, when they act where they act as a nutrient and promote the growth of oxygen consuming algae. Means when these phosphate and the nitrate, that is generally come from the fertilizer and the detergent and drain into the surface water, and thereby promote the growth of oxygen level, and in turn reduces the amount of dissolved oxygen and in which water in the water, and fish kills and other aquatic animal also. Industrial effluents, that is result in the addition of poisonous chemicals such as arsenic, mercury, cadmium, and the lead, etc., which kill the aquatic organism. These chemicals may reach human body through contaminated food. Third point is that hot wastewater released from the power station increased the temperature of the water surface. Now, that the hot water that is released from the power station is going to increase the temperature of the water resources and thereby reduces its oxygen level and make is incapable for the life supporting. Third or fourth one is that sea water that is polluted with the crude oil leakage cause oil spills. So what is oil spills? That is sea water is basically it is polluted with the crude oil leakage and causes oil spill, which contaminates sea water and lead to the death of marine organism. What are the effects of this water pollutions? First one is about the pathogen. Most of the water bodies or wastewater, especially the sewage, contain pathogen. What is pathogen? Very best example, that is disease causing organism like bacteria, virus and the protozoa. The organism that cause disease such as bacteria and the virus and the protozoa. These pathogen basically is going to enter the human body from the contaminated drinking water, and these are responsible for the severe waterborne disease like cholera, typhoid, diarrhea, dysentery, hepatitis, polio and the jaundice. These are the waterborne disease. Now, our next point is toxic compound. Our next point is toxic compound. The pollutants such as heavy metal, the pollutants such as heavy metals, pesticides, cyanides, and many other organic and the inorganic compounds are harmful to all organisms. So, some of the pollutants such as heavy metals, pesticides, cyanide, and the many other metals or many other organic and the inorganic compound are going to be affect the organism. Some of the toxic substances do not undergo biodegradation. So it is very important that there are some toxic substances, these are not going to undergo biodegradation and they remain in the environment for a longer time, and they are going to remain in the environment for a longer time. Means you can say these toxic substances are non-biodegradable. The toxic substance polluting the water ultimately affect the human health. Now, these toxic substances is ultimately going to affect the human beings by polluting water. Some heavy metals like lead, mercury and the cadmium cause various types of disease. So, first one is that the mercury that is dumped into the water is transferred into water soluble methyl, that is transferred into water soluble methyl mercury by bacterial action. So, when the mercury is going to dump into the water, it is going to transformed into water soluble methyl mercury by the action of bacteria. Methyl mercury that is going to accumulate in the fish, and the people in the Japan suffered from a disease that is called Minata Mata, that is which resulted in the numbness, which resulted into the numbness of the body part, vision and the hearing problems and the abnormal mental behaviors. And this is caused by the consumption of the methyl mercury contaminated fish that is caught by the Minata Mata Bay in Japan. So, there is a popular example of that is a mercury, that is a heavy metals, that is mercury, and the disease caused by the mercury is Minata Mata, and it is generally it is happened in Japan. That is when the people consumed methyl mercury contaminated fish that is caught from the Minata Mata Bay in Japan. Second one is that the pollution that is by the heavy metals cadmium, and the disease caused by the cadmium that is called itai, that is it is also in the Japan also. Water contaminated with arsenic causes mental disorder. Means there are some water contaminated by the arsenic causes mental disorder, liver damage, lungs cancer, ulcer in the gastrointestinal tract, and the kidney failure. And the last one, fluoride, that is containing pollutants causes diseases like fluorosis, which cause discoloring of dental enamel and blackening and brown stain on the teeth. And it also causes respiratory and the gastrointestinal problem. So, what is the cause of, if there is a fluoride, what is the cause of fluoride? Fluoride basically causes a disease called fluorosis, and in this, what is the symptoms? It causes discoloring of mental enamel, dental enamel, and the black and the brown stain on the teeth. Now we are going to study about the effect of the soil pollution. The soil pollution affects human beings and the animals directly, indirectly through the food chain. The effect of the soil pollution on the environment, human health and other organisms are discussed below. The first one is effect on the environment. Effect on the environment is the first one is that nitrogenous fertilizer that is produce toxic concentration of nitrate and nitrite in the leaves. So first one is that there is nitrogenous fertilizer is going to produce a toxic concentration in the nitrate and the nitrate in the leaves. Means it's going to produce a toxic concentration of nitrate and the nitrite in the leaves. And second one is that industrial and the chemical waste cause pollutions of the underground water. Industrial and the chemical waste is going to pollute the underground water. And the third one is that nitrogen and the phosphorus from the fertilizer accumulates in nearby water bodies with agricultural runoff and cause eutrophication. We have already studied about the eutrophication. So here that is nitrogen and the phosphorus that is from the fertilizer is going to accumulate nearby the sea, and due to this and that is the cause eutrophication. And the chemical may percolate. These chemicals may percolate or enters into water bodies and contaminates groundwater resources also. Land and the soil pollution is responsible for the loss of fertility and the productivity of soil. What are the effects of soil pollution? That is, land and the soil is responsible for the loss of fertility and the productivity of soil. Now, effects on the health. Soil containing many pathogenic bacteria. Soil that contains many pathogenic bacteria means the bacteria, some of the microorganisms that are causing disease. So, soil contains many pathogenic bacteria, viruses, and intestinal worms which are transmitted to man by the consumption of the fruits and the vegetables, and these pathogens cause various types of disease. Radioactive fallout, and this pathogen is going to cause various types of disease, and it also affect the fruits and the vegetables also. The radioactive fallout on the vegetables in the source of radioisotopes which enters the foods and cause through the grazing animals, and some of these radioisotopes cause abnormalities. So it is talking about the radioactive fallout on the vegetations. That is a how the sources will be our isotopes, and that will enter into the food chain and through the grazing of animal, and some of these isotopes or radioisotopes is causing abnormalities. The use of human beings and the animals excreta as manure pollutes the soil. So the use of the animal and the human excreta as a manure pollute the soil. Excreta contain pathogen which contaminate the soil and vegetable crops. So you know that excreta contain many types of the many types of the pathogen, and which are going to contaminate the soil and the vegetable crops and affect the health of the human beings. Now we are going to study about the effects on the other organism. Particulates in the sewage may clog, means the particulates that is in the sewage clog the microholes of the soil, and destroy the microorganisms necessary for the soil enrichment. You know that in the soil there is so many microorganisms that is very useful for the soil enrichment. So the particles in the sewage that is going to clog the micro holes of the soil and destroy the microorganisms, and thereby reducing the soil and thereby reducing soil fertility. Second one is that radioactive materials moves away from the soil into the crop, livestock, and the human bodies through the food chain. So these radioactive material is going to pollute the soil, and from the soil it is going to the crops and to the livestock, and to the livestock so to the humans, and thereby affecting the food chain. Many pesticides are absorbed by the plants and reach animals and the humans by the food chain. So you know that many pesticides that are absorbed by the plants and reach into the animals and to the humans by the food chain. Now this is our last topic, that is effects of the radioactive pollutions. What are the effects of the radioactive pollutions? That is, the radioactive pollutions is caused by testing of nuclear weapons, establishment of the nuclear power plants, mining and the refining of the radioactive substances like uranium, thorium, and the plutonium, and during medical treatment using X-ray. So what are the sources of that is air radioactive pollutions? The radioactive pollutions is basically caused by testing of nuclear weapons, establishment of the nuclear power plant, mining and refining of the radioactive substances like uranium, thorium, and the plutonium, and during the medical treatment using X-ray. Effects on the environment. Radiations that is emitted from the radioactive materials and the disposal of radioactive waste cause pollutions and damage the environment. So what are the effects of radioactive? The radiations that is emitted from the radioactive materials is going to affect or pollute the environment. The high level products of the nuclear waste that is remains in the atmosphere for several hundred years. So the waste product of the radioactive material is going to be present in the environment for 100 years or so. Other radioactive threats to the environment are accident connected with the activities of nuclear reactors, nuclear vessels, and the satellite also. What are the effects on the human health? Radioactive, that is radiations affects living organism, and they cause harmful change in the body cells and the genetic level. So The radioactive, this radiations is going to affect the living organism, and they cause harmful change in the body cells and the genetic level. First one is the genetic variations. The damage caused by the radiations is often seen as offsprings and may be transmitted to many generations. Somatic variations, that is a short-term exposure to radiations, cause damage to organ to the body. So, somatic variations means what? There may be a genetic variation, means these radiations may affect the offspring. How it is going to affect the genetic cell? It is going to affect the genetic cell. Now we are talking about the somatic cell. So short term exposure to the radiation cause damage to the organs of the body. The harmful, that is the harm done to them, include breast cancer, thyroid cancer, lungs cancer, brain cancer, and the defective eyesight. Now what is the effects on the animal? Effects on the animal, that is radioactive substance resulting from the explosion of the nuclear radiation device or the nuclear waste penetrates to the soil, thereby enter into the food chain and get concentrated in the body tissues and adverse effect on them. So what are the effects on the animal? First, it is going to penetrate into the soil and thereby it is entered into the food chain and get concentrated in the body tissues of the animal, and it is going to affect them. Best example is that there is a radioactive accident in 1986 in the Chernobyl, that is in Ukraine. And on 26 April 1986, a reactor at the nuclear power plant, that is Chernobyl, exploded, and thereby a massive steam explosion was done, and the core of the reactor combined with water. The core on the the core of the reactor combined with the water is going to produce hydrogen. This hydrogen, and which exploded, blowing toxic radioactive gases into the air, and there were numerous fires. The Chernobyl accident is considered the most disastrous nuclear power plant accident, both in the terms of the cost as well as the casualties. And due to this accident, about 237 people suffered from the acute radiation sickness, of whom 31 were died within first 3 months. And after the disaster, the 4 square kilometer of the pine forest near the reactor, that is turned reddish brown and died, earning the name of red forest. And some animal in the worst hit areas died also and stopped reproducing. So this is the effect of radioactive pollutions. Our last hour exercises related to what does the noise pollution affect, means how does noise pollution affect animals. So you can answer this one also. What measures harms is done to the human beings by the air pollutions? This also can be done by yourself. How are animals affected by the air pollution? Very good, is very easy question. What is the effect of oil spills in the marine life? Very good. What causes water bondages and in the two water bondages? In which way does the soil pollution affect the human body or human beings? I'll give the impact of radiations in the human body, and why are nuclear radiations more dangerous than the other form of radiation? Because why? Because it is going to be remain for 100 years also. Now to the structure questions. First one is that related to the noise pollution penetration, that is state briefly how is the noise pollution detrimental to the health, means detrimental, harmful to the health. About the air pollutions, about the accumulation of nutrients and the chemicals, and with the help of the level diagram you have to explain the accumulation of the toxic substance that is increasing from the food chain, and we have to state about the two effects in each soil of the soil pollutions on the human beings and the environment. Name the three component or the three common air pollutants and their effects in the human health, and what are the pathogens and how do they enter, and name the three diseases that is caused by the pathogens, and state the example of the effects of the radiations on the human beings and the environment. I think all the questions are very easy question. I think you can do this one. Thank you दोस्तों.